Welcome to the Log Time Podcast. If y'all weren't watching anything this past summer season, you missed out. Thankfully, you've got us, your friendly podcast neighborhood backloggers, to fill you in. Summer months may be over, but you can still warm up and chat about some good shows, so get in here.
Matt,
Yeah, what's up?
you like jazz?
Do I like jazz?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love jazz.
Huh.
Smooth jazz.
Smooth jazz, specifically.
Yeah.
You know, a really early podcast of ours would tell you that you actually don't like jazz.
What? Are you serious? Which podcast?
The Kids on the Slope?
Oh, okay, that's barely an anime.
Wow! Okay, whoa.
Oh, wow, years later and the wound is still fresh.
But that's not seasonal anime.
No, it's not.
And that's a hot take, but it's not seasonal anime. Plenty of time for hot takes.
I don't know if we can keep that in there.
I don't know.
You know what is seasonal anime?
What is?
Seasonal anime. Guys, what you like from this season?
Speaking of smooth jazz, that was not smooth.
Oh gosh, that was the smoothest transition I've ever been a part of.
I mean, by definition, it was smooth, but only because it was nothing. Thank you.
It's like air, baby. Like,
Stop.
Goes down
Just
smooth.
Guys, what's your favorite anime from the season that you watched? Get me out of this hell.
Smooth like butter. I was happy to watch the rest of Demon Slayer.
Man, I'm kicking myself that I never got started on that.
So here's the delightful thing about having not started on Demon Slayer. It's
done?
all out there now.
Yeah.
So you can just plow your way through it.
I
loved coming in every Saturday and being like, it is fucking Demon Slayer Day. And it was so well worth it. I think we talked about this last time around, but I mean, it's pretty swordsman boys. Well, not the boys aren't pretty. Like the show is pretty. It's got that good ufotable fate money. God damn, this show looks great. And I feel like I said that last time, and I'm still gonna say it because it just got even more pretty looking as the show went.
Oh, really?
Which is incredible. So good. And it's just nice to see a popular shonen show that doesn't have a complete fucking dingus asshole for the protag.
Really?
Wow.
And
Man, it's been a while since I've seen one of those.
Tanjiro is such a good boy, and he approaches all fights and battles in such a way that he's very clearly playing for keeps. But at the end of each fight, there's always some sense of compassion in him when he slays a demon, because he's like, well, this used to be a person, and there's always some sense of humanizing the demons at the end of the fight, because it generally shows how they got to this point. Why are they demons? What got them to this point in their life that they have become these monsters? And
oh, that's hella kick-ass.
it's such a neat approach to take to this, and sometimes I forget that I'm watching a shonen. It's pretty incredible.
It's kind of interesting that the most... technically you could say Demon Slayer started in, the spring season, but...
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting how all the conversation, that show was not talked about until, episodes, 10, I would like to say 9 or 10. I started seeing a lot more discussion about it, and it's kind of funny if you look at some of the other shonen that we had during the summer season. We have we have Dr. Stone, we got Fire Force, we got all these shonen-y anime, and it's somehow Demon Slayer came out above all of those, despite the hype behind some of those other shows. So somehow it and Vinland Saga is another one that I'm sure that we're gonna.
That's my.
I'm sure you're gonna talk about it in a little bit. But I was just thinking, out of all the shows, the shonen-y shows that came out this season. Demon Slayer, one from last season, technically, was the one that ended up above them all, even though it was not as well regarded during spring.
I know, and I don't...
It's interesting, because I don't know how much of the show... You watched it, I didn't.
Yeah.
How much of the show, like, really changed from, like, that point onward? Like, did it really get that much better? Was that, like, an escalation of, like, you know, quality? Or was it, like, consistent and people just didn't know about it, maybe?
I mean, honestly, no. I was hooked from the get-go with Demon Slayer. Like, from the very start, the whole premise of, you know, Tanjiro and his sister Nezuko's whole family getting slain by a demon. Nezuko is now a demon, but then them having this dynamic of, okay, well, we're not going to kill her. We're going to keep her alive and try to find a way to, you know, transform her back into a human. And then having the kind of, you know, dynamic of that, but then also taking, you know, dumb shonen sword fighting bullshit and making it really interesting and palatable in a completely different way is just like it was just intoxicating from the start. And I kind of don't get why it took like almost 3 months for people to really get on board with it. I don't understand personally.
I'm trying to think of some of the things that came out during spring. Just trying to remember that season. It always feels like a blur.
Seems so long ago.
Because it seems so long ago. But yeah, Kyle. While I'm thinking about that, like, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I wonder if because it could be two different things. It could be just us three kind of missed out on a lot of that discussion. Maybe it was just somewhere else that we just, like, somewhere else on Twitter or somewhere else on YouTube or something that we just missed out on. But it also could be that maybe it's one of those shows that, like, kind of had a bit of a Netflix Stranger Things thing, and it just kind of spread word of mouth. So it took a while for people to get invested in it, just because they didn't know about it.
That's fair.
That could make some sense, because, like, I saw a comment the other day that apparently Demon Slayer, of all shows, is actually getting people to watch Fate, which some people apparently think is a, like, not as popular show, which is kind of interesting.
But that's
fucking
wild.
I'm like, hold on, like.
Hey, have you heard of this Fate show? It's from the same people that did the Demon Slayer one. You know, the really popular one.
And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that feels backwards. I read a couple comments like that, and I'm like, that's cool, like, that's awesome, because both of those are apparently really good shows. But I'm just like, wow, like, this is so backwards from how I thought this would have developed.
Okay, so thinking about it, spring 2019, when this started airing, had, you know, Shingeki no Kyojin Season 3 Part 2. It had One Punch Man 2. It had Sarazanmai. We had Hitori Bochi and Fruits Basket and Carol and Tuesday and Bungo Stray Dogs Season 3. So there was a lot of, like, heavy hitters in that sense, and Demon Slayer might have gotten a little eclipsed by some of that.
Okay, I'm kind of seeing maybe, like, the timeline of this year. So maybe other people were, like, invested in, like, other shonen shows. Like, maybe the target audience was invested in something else that are like, I'm just not going to watch it right now. Or maybe, I don't know. There would be a lot of reasons, but that's, I guess, my speculation. Is that then they're like, oh, there's, like, no real shonen this season, even though that's not true either. Maybe
it could just be that people were willing to give a couple other shows a try. Maybe they got a little tired of Dr. Stone. They got a little tired of Fire Force, and they're like, what else is there?
Well, getting tired of one of those is the right choice, and getting tired of one of those is the wrong choice.
Okay.
I know how you personally feel about Dr. Stone, Kyle. We discussed that a little bit last time.
Well, I mean, we can get into it, but basically, like, to sum it up, like, it's my own personal opinion, and I only saw, like, 2 episodes. So, like, you know,
I'm just
that's no judgment of the series on the whole. So
I joke.
Yeah, I just mean my opinion's kind of null and void.
I only saw 1 episode, so yeah.
Bottom line, like, Demon Slayer is fucking great, and if you haven't watched it, you really owe it to yourself to watch it, because it takes what is really, like, great and fun about shonen shows in that, you know, like, really cool choreographed fight scenes and, like, very much, like, power of friendship and love and stuff, but it takes like a lot of ideas on like family and familial bonds, and it kind of tosses that into a package where it kind of avoids a lot of the cringy tropey shonen shit and just makes it a great package altogether. So it's delightful.
Hell
Wow.
yeah.
I guess really it technically aired last season, so it can't really be my favorite from this season.
Sure,
I
it
don't
can.
think.
Yeah,
Sure,
it finished
okay.
up in
no,
the season.
no
Okay,
rules here.
okay.
There are no rules in anime.
That's fair.
There are no rules on this podcast.
That's fair.
Yeah, also fair. Yeah.
I mean, just look at how we started, but...
Oh, God.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, we'll cut it out.
Shush.
Yeah, so that was your what would be your favorite if that wasn't the case, though?
Oh, Maidens in Your Savage Season.
Oh, fuck yes.
No question.
No
Hands
doubt.
down.
Interesting.
No doubt.
Well, really? Why do you say that's
Interesting.
interesting, Matt?
I don't know. I thought it was good. I have no like. I mean, I have some qualms with it, but I don't have like. I didn't think it was like bad or anything. I just think that I don't know. I think I have a different level of exposure to different things. But
Sure.
if you want to go into it, we can talk about Maidens.
why not?
Yeah,
I'm
might
down.
as well.
I'm very curious as to what kind of some of your qualms are with the show.
I had a couple of qualms, but it was things that I think overall the show was able to get through. So,
I guess for me, like the main qualm was that I don't know, like this is probably honestly just a personal me thing, but I don't know. I wasn't really grasped by the topic from like I guess the get go, like I was willing to give it a chance because Mary Okada was the writer and all this stuff, and don't get me wrong, like it's still a good show. Like at the end, I still liked it, and I think it's pretty innovative in some of the things that it did, but I also think that like honestly, the topic of like sexuality is like just not something that I want to watch a whole show about. Completely.
No, that's perfectly fair.
Different
Different structure, different folks.
It just doesn't just didn't really like keep me engaged as I was hoping it would.
Sure.
So that's basically the main reason I didn't like it as well as maybe you guys did. But
so it's like less a qualm, and it was more just that like personally in what you are viewing a show for, it didn't really like mesh with you as much as something else would have.
yeah,
Okay, that's fair.
yeah, I think that's a
'Cause
good way to put it. Despite the
'cause
word
I mean,
mesh, but yeah,
that was accidental. It's a slip at this point. Because I mean, like at its core, it is an adolescent like school drama in some ways, and like Matt, that is your shit. You love some adolescent school drama.
oh yeah, like that's totally up my alley in that regard.
Right. But like I definitely get in that having such a specific overt focus on sexuality and that kind of development of that doesn't really like go in with a lot of the stuff like that is primo your shit, like Hyoka and fucking Yahari and things like that are definitely primo high school drama, but definitely not in that specific category.
It's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's a very specific different kind of human drama.
That's right.
Yeah,
I would definitely say that, and honestly that's probably like one of the main things, but I mean it doesn't make it a bad show by any regard. I don't want anyone to get that impression that I'm like shit talking the show, because it's perfectly fine, but minus a few things. But
and it's perfectly fair to like come into this and be like, it's not really my thing. It's cool, I appreciate it, but like I'm not really here for it.
yeah.
Personally, like I was really fascinated to see a show that was like a high school drama sort of thing that eschewed a lot of the normal trappings of this kind of genre and sort of went with this very specific overt direction about developing this particular like part of adolescence and sexuality. And I thought it did a really interesting job talking about a lot of different facets of it.
And it was that's what I loved.
It was really interesting seeing all of our main cast, you know, kind of go their separate directions of developing through this and coming to find and accept themselves in very different ways, and also coming to terms with a lot of different specific traumas and hang-ups. And oh my god, there were so many times in this show where I was like, oh my fucking god, can we airlift these girls out of here, please? Oh god.
There were multiple
absolute
times
nightmare
with especially Sugawara where I was just
airlift her.
I was
and put
clapping
her
my
away.
hands and I was like, don't talk to the pedo, don't talk to the pedo.
Yeah, it wasn't her. I think the Momo, her, that girl, one with the braids. I think that's her. Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to save her from the situation she was having with that obviously toxic individual. And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just get her out of there. Get her out of there. She needs out. She needs help. I mean, she got herself out of it, but I was like, good. It was very satisfying. But
I very much appreciated. Sorry.
Yeah,
I very much appreciated though that it was an interesting take on it because like he constantly comes to her as a friend, so it's you get to see from a girl's perspective this idea of a guy who's like no, we're just friends, and like trying to push himself on her, and seeing how that is in itself toxic. It doesn't have to be like, yo bitch, what up, and just like coming at them like that. It can also be like somebody that's, you know, trying to be friendly but pushing themselves and their ideals onto you, and that's not who you are.
Yeah. Oh man,
I don't know.
saw him as like such a.
It was clearly toxic to me from the beginning.
I saw him as such a fucking like fedora tipping, like nice guys finish last.
Exactly.
I feel like I stared into our nice guys for a second.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, it very much is that type of character. But that's what I mean. It's not what like some dude might be like, yo, that's toxic if someone's like, yeah, my bitch and I hated her, and it's there's that, and then there's also the more subdued one that guys may not always pick up on, but girls know all too well. And so like I think it was great to see that portrayed, even though I cringed so hard.
And like I think that for me specifically, like that was a lot of the show. I was cringing and hurting a lot watching this show, just watching them do the really stupid shit that they do in this goddamn show. And the fact of the matter is, to me, I was watching that and I was like, oh fuck, I hate this so much. Why are you all doing that? And it kind of does encapsulate, well, they're doing this because they're fucking high schoolers that are trying to understand and navigate puberty and sex and everything else. And so it makes sense that they're going to make some dumb fucking decision using high schooler logic. It really encapsulates a lot of that just perfectly.
High school logic.
Everything in the show is so goddamn messy and difficult to deal with, and it's like that almost every fucking episode. And I think that is, to me, you know, a part of what made it so great. It's so messy, but at no point along the way does it ever like demonize the girls or demonize the process through which they're actually going about this. You know, it's not saying, look at these degenerates like doing this awful bad stuff. It's like, you know, oh my god, I feel for them. And this sucks that they have to go through this like the rest of us do. This is the worst.
Yeah, each one of them experiences sexuality in their own unique way and has to explore that in their own unique way, which I think was exhibited very well. And I think that kudos to Marikato that she never shies away from darker themes, such as in the case of like Nina Sugawara, in which she was groomed from a young childhood by this older person, and like you can definitely see how that's twisted her own feelings of self-value. And so like I hated watching it, but I think it was a fantastic arc for that character of learning to like not put her value in what others think, especially that person, and putting value in herself. And oh gosh, I thought that was wondrously explored, but the entire time I was like, I'm so uncomfortable. Somebody,
Yep.
somebody needs to call Chris Hansen. I am so uncomfortable right now.
Yeah, I guess to summarize, like, the whole show is awkward and hurts to watch sometimes, but it's also delightful and fun and full of discovery, and it's exactly what it should be for this show and this topic.
Yeah, especially if it's a bunch of girls like exploring sexuality in high school. Obviously, it's gonna be really fucking awkward and cringy because that's exactly what we all went through. So it's like it's hitting the nail like right on the head, and I think it's fantastic that the show decided to approach this from a female perspective, because most of the time we just get like the dudes growing up and like, oh whoops, I accidentally squeezed your boob, and that's, you know, my exploration of sexuality. But like I liked that it was able to explore that and was able to even show a little bit of the male perspective as well and do a good job of it.
It's good shit.
Good shit. I do feel so shitty for Momo though, because she's the only gay character in the show and she got no help from her friends. Like, yeah, it was so unfortunate that she's like, hey, she even like openly stated to them a few times, like, I really like girls, that's just what I like. And they're like, okay, cool. But they never like help her or support her. They're just like, I have my own things to deal with. It's like, oh, Momo. Oh, I feel so bad for you.
Yeah. She needs some help.
Yeah.
She needs somebody to love.
Did you guys have any problems? Thank you, Kyle. Did you guys have any problems with the the pacing of the show at all, or anything?
No, I don't think so.
You think it was fine?
I thought that it was relatively fine. It definitely started to pick up pace once you started getting, like, I think episode 6 onwards. So if you weren't into the more methodical pace of like 1 through 5, then you might not get into it as easily. But like, definitely as soon as it starts hitting like those really strong emotional and dramatic beats, like, it continues that up to the end. And I thought to help with the pacing, it did a good job of balancing a lot of that with a lot of humor as well. Surprising amounts of humor, actually. So,
okay,
that was my personal take on it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the humor in the show, and I'm honestly drawing a blank.
Well, I mean, for instance, one that always stuck out on me is like you get this super fucking weird and creepy scene with, once again, Sugawara, and that older dude, and then she just fucking decks him, and the only thing that she can think is, "I'm sorry, I'm going to leave now," and then just like runs away.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't really think of that as funny, but I guess it could be funny in some instances. I don't know. I felt like the tone of the scene was way too serious to laugh at.
It was up until that point, and then it was like a bit of relief because it's like, why are you apologizing? No, fuck yeah, you decked that dude in the face. He deserved it.
He definitely deserved it. Not gonna argue that. So, interestingly enough, there's actually a lot of people that praise Mary Okada. At least that I saw on Twitter, a lot of people did not like that whole section with not only
I can understand why
the groomer dude, but also like the whole sensei situation,
which is also just another form of grooming. Really, it's just less so, but it's still bad.
Well, I mean, I kind of like in his situation. What the fuck are you gonna do in that? Like,
I mean, it is true. It is true that like the teacher, or excuse me, the student was the one to initiate. But at the same time, the fact that he was even willing to go along with it at all becomes an issue.
I mean, that's really complicated because I didn't really like. I don't know. I never had the impression that he was ever like into her. I mean, it's obviously like still like taboo.
He never was, but the fact that he was making her do various different, like, oh, you know, show me your panties on this day at this certain time, and then shit like that, that's not okay. That should have never been engaged in the first place. Because you can't, because even if you're like, oh, I'll scare her and she'll quit, the fact that you even attempted to go at it that way instead of just a hard, nope, not gonna do this, and then walked away, that's bad.
Well, I mean, I agree. I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying because you're right. But I also think, in terms of the show, I don't think you would have had a character learn anything from that experience.
No, but I mean, like, realistically, that's what you do.
Well, I mean,
yes, realistically, that's what you do. But again, it's
obviously.
anime, which this is not a
We're
realistic
transcending
sense.
the boundaries of realism here.
He should have shut it down.
But that's
because
what
that wasn't the best way
that's
for him to handle it. But
right.
also, given the situation he found himself in, I felt that he handled himself in pretty much the most respectful manner that he could have, without, essentially like completely shutting her down and shaming her for trying to explore her sexuality, even though it's not the best way or the healthiest way for her to do so. And I felt like at least the way that he handled it was, a sense of, look, you're still, worth something as a person, and I'm not going to completely and outright deny you in that sense. Again, he shouldn't have handled it specifically the way he did from the start, but I feel like at the end of it, it kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, at the end of it, it works
And
out.
Matt, like
but
you
the
said,
means don't
it's
always
a
justify
complicated
the ends.
situation.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a very complicated
This
situation.
whole show is a bunch of complicated situations, as we said. So
Right, but what I mean by saying that's what you do in real life is I can understand why people would be upset that was portrayed in the first place in an anime, even if it is done in a way that I think, at least as far as her situation is her and Sensei was awkward, weird. I'm uncomfortable, but I think overall, like at the end, I was like, okay, well, thank goodness. But I can understand why somebody might be upset that was portrayed.
right,
Sure, yeah.
yeah, I don't necessarily agree with those people. I just wanted to express that viewpoint and see what you guys thought about it.
No, yeah.
Interestingly, on that note, I'd be interested to know. This is just kind of like my own brain thinking. I wonder what the overlap is. Because I wonder if any of those people were okay with the relationship in Scum's Wish.
That's
Because
a good question.
That would be an interesting question.
That's interesting because that's another student-teacher relationship that's kind of messy and kind of toxic.
It is also overtly sexual.
Yeah, it's very similar in that vein.
Overtly.
It's very in that same vein. So
Like-
I'd be interested to know if they're I wish I knew the exact people that made these comments, because I'd be wonder if there was any overlap there, or if there's any nuanced difference,
If
Right.
they had seen Scum's Wish so that we could compare, because I think that would be an excellent talking point, the difference between the two and how they deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you what were some of the examples that people were bringing up in the things that they did not like about this show?
I mean, I would assume specifically.
It's
what we were just
specifically
talking
the
about.
pedophilic tendencies of two adult characters in this show.
Okay, yeah.
So.
It's shitty to say, but I actually was okay with that being explored in a fictional setting, because unfortunately that is something that sometimes does occur. Even if it's in some small minor way, it's still bad. So sometimes it's good to get a fictional perspective of it, so you can be like, oh, okay, that's not healthy.
Yeah,
I should
'cause
watch out for that.
It's clearly indicated
Yeah.
this is not okay
Right.
in any form whatsoever.
In fact,
whether it comes in the form of a face punch or another, adult male character basically saying no, this is not appropriate, this isn't okay, we're shutting this shit down.
Right.
So
Yeah, I personally think that it was done. I don't want to say well. It was done in a way that is okay to be expressed.
I think it
visually.
was okay. It was in tone with the show, so I think I was okay
Yeah.
with it in that regard.
Yeah.
It fit the show, so it is
just
what it
done
is.
worked.
So,
Also, I mean, Mary Okada, she can't shy away from darker elements like that. She never does.
no,
It could be the happiest show in the world. It could be so fucking funny, some of the moments in the show, and it still is going to have some real dark Debbie Downer moments.
absolutely, that is just her style.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Indeed.
So
Um,
so where do we go from here?
That would I would say is my favorite one that we all watched together.
Well, that's the only one we watched together, you dingus.
All right, but there was some overlap between like you and Zach at least.
A little bit, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, that was I would say that one's my favorite of the season. Of the two that I finished, I did have another one that I very much enjoyed though.
What else you watch?
I watched Machikado Mazoku, which is the demon girl next door.
Ah. Yeah, this was definitely interesting to me, but I also quickly forgot it existed.
I saw some screenshots that were funny, but I saw it at the start of episode 8 or 9, and I was like, oh, well, I don't care that much. So,
wow, brutal. I absolutely love this show. I mean, I am an absolute slut whenever it comes to slice of life, but. To that kind of cutesy slice of life, I love it. But I actually really enjoyed this more than just this is my comfy show of the season, because it actually did some interesting things that I really enjoyed. For instance, every single episode has a through line to the end of the overarching plot. It never drops it. Even if they're off doing skits or funny little things, it's all to work towards the ending of the show. Which is surprising because a lot of these comfy shows, it's just episodic. They do this today, they do that today, and there definitely is a feeling of that. But there's always an overarching idea of this is why the demon girl is doing this. This is why the magical girl is doing this, and coming together. And it's very good. I liked it a lot. I also very much appreciate the plays on magical girl shows, and specifically that whole magical girl versus evil character type of experience. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to have a show in which your main character is the evil girl, and the magical girl actually just kind of has a crush on her. It's just kind of thinks she's cute.
All right. Does anybody, Zach? Well, I say anybody, but you're the only other one, Zach. You have a feeling that this is Kyle's show, right here,
Oh,
this is on
are
brand.
You kidding me?
This is on brand.
Oh, it's absolutely on brand.
This is
it's
perfect
cutesy.
Kyle bait.
It's slice of life. The main character is a demon girl. Yes, it's on brand. I understand.
It is
this.
made for you.
This
is my show. It was made for me.
Oh no!
Strips off, runs into the hole in the mountain.
Stop.
No, but I also just very much appreciated some of the elements to it that were just oh, this is a clever twist on that. For instance, the fact that the magical girl is way more nefarious and evil than the demon girl is. Because the demon girl will be like, haha, I spilled your milk. And she was like, haha, I tied your shoes together and trapped you in a warehouse and now you're stuck.
That's so mean.
Oh no.
And it's
that's
never,
bullying.
Yeah.
We do not endorse bullying on this podcast.
Absolutely not.
And so it's very funny that she'll do these nefarious things, and then the demon girl is just shit, I've been outplayed. Oh damn. But it's also nice to see them work together. The idea that the magical girl is there training her, Rocky training her every day with weights and helping her to develop her magic, so that eventually the demon girl will be like, okay, now I can take you on in a real fight.
That's cute as shit. I'm real here for that.
But I also very much enjoy a lot of the side characters are great. There's an ancestor of the demon girl that shows up later, who is a lot of fun. The mother is a fucking blessed saint of a character. I love her so much. I will never look down on a show in which there was a scene in which the magical girl and the demon girl are it's very dramatic, because as it starts getting towards the later part of the series, it actually does delve into a little bit more dramatic ideas. But there was a scene in which there was a misunderstanding, and
of course,
yeah, and she was like, no, I won't let you come into my place, and the magic girl's like, no, but really I need to get into your place, and she's like, no, you're going to kill someone, and she's like, no, but really I need to get into this place. And then this went on for 3 minutes, and finally just the door slams over, and the mother's like, there's been a misunderstanding for 3 fucking minutes, get your asses in here, we're talking this out.
Nice.
I was like, hell yeah, I love you, Mom.
Mom saves the day again.
Mom saves the day.
Mom had to do it to him.
I'm just imagining the two girls sitting at the table and the mom sitting over there in the corner, and it just pans to her with her hands in that position. You know? And I'm just like, why?
Explain yourselves.
No, but it's very good, and I think if you want like a cutesy show that actually has a pretty good overarching story as it goes on, this is definitely it. I was really interested to see what the source material was, because where the show leaves off, I'm like, fuck, I would love to see where it goes from here. Because like it explored for like the first half of the show was like there was a slight overarching plot, but then once you start getting into the latter half, there's like this very deep idea of like there's some shit going down, there's some strange mystery going on, there's a reason why these two characters exist in this town and came across each other when they shouldn't have, and like all this other stuff, and you're like, ooh, mystery.
Adding some intrigue in a slice of life show.
And then a bit of romance. Oh. Yeah,
okay.
no.
Okay.
It was fun. I liked that show a lot.
Sounds good. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm finding that slice of life shows are decidedly like not my jam unless they fit like a very specific criteria. And I don't really know what that criteria is, but it's just gotta like scratch the right itch for me.
Yeah.
I
feel like I'm also
totally
like
get that.
wicked. I feel like I'm wicked spoiled by Eurocamp at this point, though, and like nothing else is gonna hit that. Like
Man,
it did
y'all
for me.
are like some Eurocamp people, and
I'm a hard Eurocamp stan,
I
dude.
don't really.
Yeah,
You guys talked about it for 40 minutes. 2 podcasts. We're moving on.
I know.
I'm sorry. Guys.
I'm not about to get back into it. The next thing I was going to talk about, I was going to say like, nah, I gotta keep it short.
Okay.
I keep it short.
Just waiting for that second season of the movie.
Yeah. And the short anime.
Oh, and the short anime.
The shanime. All right. Matt, do you want to talk about something?
Yeah.
Or
I kind of want to say something amazing right now.
Oh, okay.
hell yeah.
So
Tell us.
So, Wasteful Days of High School Girls.
Oh God, yeah! Please tell me
I'm
about it.
so upset that I did not finish that. I'm so upset.
So, guys, like, this show, like, I explained a little bit on the first podcast about the wild ride I had in the first episode, with like me absolutely hating it and then absolutely like liking it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This show didn't disappoint me in really any regard, and I was relatively shocked, honestly. Because, I mean, let me tell you, this is one of these comedy shows that I was like, okay, like, I'm just gonna watch it. Like, I don't know if it's any good, or watch it, and then I watched the rest of it, because, like, you know, like, sometimes comedy anime has this thing where they have a good first episode, and then it's like the rest of the show is just garbage. And I was thinking, okay, that's what this show's gonna be. And so I watched a couple more episodes, and it was moderately all right. And by that I mean, like, some of the jokes are actually really funny. All jokes are kind of hit or miss for me, but there was a lot of jokes in this show that were just so. It was not Nichijou levels, but it was bizarre enough to kind of meet some very abstract criteria that I have for comedy. And honestly, like, the characters in this show, like, are really good. Basically, I got done with the show, and then I read the entire manga.
Oh, damn.
Oh my God.
I am caught up on the manga. Like, that is just to give you kind of a glimpse of how amazing I thought this was.
I cannot remember the last time that I've ever seen you just dive whole hog into a series like that.
That was so surprising to me. It was surprising to me as well. Like, I just... there were so many jokes that were just so good. There was like this reoccurring joke, at the beginning of each episode, which you'd have to watch the show to kind of understand it. And this is the kind of show that like sometimes the comedy like intensifies. It is kind of like Nichijou in that regard, where like sometimes you'll have a gag and then the gag will keep coming back and the joke will kind of like compound on itself like over a lot of episodes. Which that was super good, but it also just had some like A+ scenes, like that shit that I was just like, this is so non-standard that it's just like, it's funny for its absurdity, but it's just also like, I called it a, I think on Kitsu I called it a psychological comedy anime, where you literally you literally never know what's going to happen next. It's unpredictable. You don't know if they're going to go like if they're going to go into a joke like normally and then subvert it, or if they're going to subvert your expectations of the joke and then do the opposite of the expectations that you have, or like if they're going to follow through with the expectations, then you wait for the subversion that never happens. Like there's just a whole bunch of like just weird, like it was almost like I was watching I don't want to say this because this is not what the show is, but it's almost like watching a parody of like someone looked at all the other comedy anime and it's like, all right, I know enough of this, we're just gonna write it. And
it's a psychological thriller in comedy form.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? Where's the killer now?
Yeah. It's like someone that was way too genre savvy just wrote this and was like, I know exactly what I'm gonna do for this scene, and that's how this show worked.
I love it.
Like oh my god, there was just and it's so interesting because this anime has one particular episode that actually sold me on this show. Like I was like, this, I mean, I already loved the show. I was like, all right, this is already pretty good. There was one episode though, it was episode 11, for those that have watched it, that had this scene that it was just, it nailed. Like it took everything that I feel like this, Kyle, you're gonna have to confirm me on this because I don't delve into this kind of anime very much.
Okay.
But I'm sure you've had experiences with shows or manga or whatever where like there's like a romance hinted at, and then like there's some misunderstanding that happens, and then that literally just prolongs the length of the manga, like kind of like a like a, you know, they're almost like this close to knowing like each other about each other, but then they're like
basically all 600 plus episodes of Case Closed. Okay, yeah,
it's like that. They took that episode, they took every trope in the book, made you think they were gonna do the trope, and then they didn't do the trope, and I was like, oh my god, like it literally turned it on its head, and I was like, all right, I don't even care what the rest of the show's like now. This episode right here is a bop, and it's not even something you can listen to.
I just took a DNA test, and that is 100% my shit.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was just, it was just, I was impressed with that, the whole show, really. There's only like one character that I thought I was like, okay, I don't really like her, but whatever. Like the rest of the show, like definitely, like I think you guys would really get a huge kick out of it.
I would really love to watch it because I loved the first episode.
Oh my god, you'll love the rest of the show.
I saw the first 4 episodes and I was like, fuck, I need to watch more of this show. But I just got busy with other shit and then I never got back to it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I just, it's so good. Like,
which I think is kind of saying something because, like you said, comedies are very hit or miss with you. So, like,
often miss.
When it hits, often miss. So when it hits, like, that means something to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hell of a recommendation.
Yeah. It's just so good. I don't really know how else to put it, but it's literally one of those things that, like, you're gonna watch it and you're about to just be amazed. Honestly, you're gonna love it. Like, I love watching these doofuses just be stupid. Like,
I just love my dumb idiot daughters. Is the name of the show?
It really just makes me think of, like, you keep describing this, and I can't help but think of I've recently started watching the Everyday Lives of High School Boys.
a lot of people
And
compared it
that's
to
all-
that.
Oh yeah.
That's all it makes me
A
think
lot of
of.
people compared it to that and said this is basically that. And I'm like, I've never seen the Daily Lives of High School Boys, but apparently it's just that, except with girls, which I don't really know all the intricacies and differences. But if it's similar, then maybe that's something I need to look into as well.
Honestly, from the one episode I've seen of Wasteful Days of High School Girls, it is 100% that, like, brand of humor in a lot of ways. So,
Nice.
or I can at least definitely see the similarities. So
Cool.
cool.
Also had like one of the
hype.
weirdly catchiest openings of the season. Like just it's another like just the whole opening is bizarre. I love it. So, this was the season for openings. But
Oh yeah, it was.
I know a lot of people don't like, skip openings or whatever. That's heresy, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you're wrong, but
but
and like,
I love
if you're
it.
listening to this and that's your opinion, I'm not here to shit on our listeners, but you are wrong. So
I
I'm not
feel
judging.
so bad that I'm also one of those people that occasionally skip
No.
openings.
All right,
Kyle!
nope, you're disbanded. Get out of here.
Podcast is done.
All right, I'm sorry.
Backloggers are over.
I'll leave the call.
Okay.
Oh, he actually left the call.
He did.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Cool.
Well,
all right.
and he's back.
Okay. No, I don't do it all the time, but like I do.
You don't have to defend yourself.
It's fine.
It's okay.
It's okay. We still love you.
Yeah.
That was said with so much contempt in your voice. Was not even trying to hide it. We still love you.
All right. So anyway.
So Zach. So
Yeah.
By the way, I want to point out. I know we were talking about everyone's favorite shows of the season. That wasn't even my favorite show of the season.
This isn't even my
God
final
damn.
form.
So we'll get into that. Zach, you
Yeah.
got any other ones you want to talk about?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I just want to do a quick update, check in on Dr. Stone. It's still great. That's all I really have to say. I don't have much more to say about it. It's still just very fun.
I mean, it's not done
so-
yet, so.
No, yeah. So if that's your kind of shit and you've liked the first few episodes, you're gonna like what continues from it. So
Cool.
that's my recommendation. It's great. I look forward to every fucking Friday because I'm like, yeah, it's Dr. Stone Day now, baby.
Time
kinda same
time
thing
to
with
get
Vinland.
stoned.
I should have.
Get stoned and
Man, okay.
straight from the doctor.
Same thing with Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga continues to ramp up, like not to extreme degrees, but it's still such a fantastic show. And we didn't really, I didn't really get to check in too much with it, like over the course of the season, because like we did the beginning of the season cast. We only had up to like episode 3 or 4, and it's a very different show then than it is now because there's a large time skip that's involved in the
Oh.
show. And our boy Thorfinn is a very different character now than he was at the beginning of the show, because now he's in with a ruthless band of Vikings that killed his father, and there's this larger discussion of he's now in the thick of battle as a full-on warrior, and he's trying to avenge his father. But there's also this wrestling of like, your dad was literally a warrior who wanted to be a pacifist and who tried to eschew war, so are you really doing him a service and doing this justice? But we also get these scenes of like him thinking in on himself, and we get visions of him as a young kid in his dreams and such. and it's such an interesting show in how it considers the ways in which we hold on to these things that kept us going as a kid and that have continued to keep us going as we grow up in life. God, it's so fucking good. I could just gush about this for a long time, but again, you really owe it to yourself to at least give Vinland Saga a try if you haven't at this point. And we're still getting another good 14 episodes or so.
Oh my god.
Or not 14, another like 12 or so. Because it's a 2-core, so it's going on for the rest of the season. It's fucking great. Yeah, that's my recommendation for that. Also continuing to air this season, unfortunately, is Fire Force.
If you want to talk one that kind of burned out.
Yeah, man, so like the fact of the matter is, I loved the shit out of Fire Force to start, because the first couple episodes were very, very interesting in like its actual concept and execution, because at its core, Fire Force seems to be a show that has a premise that is, you know, inherently skeptical of like organized religion and government and all sorts of like conspiracy theories that have to do with like, you know, does the government actually know the secret to this particular illness, and are they just exploiting it and not giving us the cure to like keep us controlled and everything else?
No, the big pharma thing.
Yeah, and it's really interesting in its kind of approach to that. And again, it's a gorgeous fucking show. It's great. It has really cool choreographed fight scenes. But
a quick add-in on that. Apparently, David Production has a lot of Shaft animators now.
Yeah,
because Shaft is falling apart. Spoilers.
What?
Oh no.
Not like super falling apart. Like there's still a studio, but yeah, they lost a lot of their good animators.
Ooh.
Yikes.
So.
Yeah, like, I mean, from the very start, you know, I noticed a lot of specific, like, camera angles and shots and, like, scene compositions early on. I was like, this feels weirdly like Monogatari. And I checked staff, and I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. And so I guess it's with all these factors contributing, that's partially maybe what pisses me off the most about this show, in that, you know, I really enjoyed Fire Force and the premise of it, but it kind of slowly started to ramp up like these like really just weird overt kinds of fan service and everything else, to the point that it just got like pretty disgusting and absurd in how it started affecting the show as a whole. I mean, there is an entire character who, like, her whole shtick is that she has a thing called like the Lucky Lecture ability, which is basically like some weird twist of fate activates and like some dude around her like gropes her, which is
that really a lucky twist of fate?
I did not know about that. What the fuck?
And
that's
so
dumb.
like it gets to a point where, like, you know, that her whole introduction is like within a few seconds of her being on screen, like,
oh my god,
some dude's hands are down her pants and grabbing her ass and all this shit. And so it continues to escalate to a point where our main character is in a very deeply serious fight with this dude that's kind of like a deep government and deep religious agent who's kind of turned coat. And so he's coming in to save our Lucky Lecture girl, who has like been abused and had the shit beaten out of her by this dude that he's fighting.
I don't like what's this going.
And so, like, you know, she's kind of cowering to the side like during their fight, and there's this whole thing in the middle of the goddamn fight where like our main character gets like kind of knocked aside, and he gets like a face full of her boobs and everything mid fight, and so the whole fight just like stops for like almost a good minute for them to like address, ooh, whoopsie, I didn't mean to, oh god, oh, whoops. And so, like, you know, it's dumb in and of itself that it is like fan service like placed specifically in the middle of a fight scene that had such like weight and tension to it, but it felt so deeply like just gross and wrong to like literally the episode before we had this girl like bawling and in tears because of this scene. And so for us to turn right around and have her be like this weird object of like, you know, being completely sexualized, and that's her whole point, I was fucking done.
Yeah.
And so, like, I understand some people can be like, a little less sensitive to fan service and things like that. And like I get that, and I would understand that if that's all this was. But it's a continuing like escalation of this shit in such a way that it completely disrupts the ethos and everything else of the show, and it really just makes me mad.
Yeah,
honestly.
that sounds like it's actually destructive to the story's properties, which is something I couldn't watch it. I would get mad. So
yeah, we've talked about this before, in which like
I can,
some people like fan service, some people don't. There are certain aspects or elements or a certain amount of fan service that people are like, oh, that's okay. But like, while I may not be personally like a huge fan of fan service in general, I especially just get pissed whenever I'm watching a show, like whenever our discussion on Dungeon, in which like the entire time the camera is way more focused at staring at a girl's like up her skirt than actually showing me the main character of the show and what they're trying to do. And so I'm like, what the fuck? I literally can't see what's happening.
The saving grace is that Dungeon is bad.
Why are you doing
so
this? Well, all right. Well, we should specify season 1 of Dungeon. I have not seen any of the other ones. Apparently, one of them's actually not bad. I don't know.
I didn't watch any more of it. But
yeah.
Like, as someone that's I can tolerate it to some extent, but when you start actually like ruining your story to get it in, like that, that's when I'm done, because like it's just not interesting. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't care.
And the thing that's also like,
I think, sorry, Zach, I was just going to say, especially in the case that you brought up with this girl who was, at this point actively abused, and then all of a sudden we're going to make a sexual object and joke of her.
That's just like, bad taste.
It's
bad. Unbelievably bad. And like I think the increasingly infuriating part of this is like, so the author of this is also the author of Soul Eater, and I loved the shit out of the anime Soul Eater. It was real fun. And so like, while it had some like dumb fan servicey parts here and there, it was never like really malicious about it. There wasn't that much from what I remember watching it. And so for that to be an earlier work, and so for his next big work to like kind of double down on that and increase on it is just like really weird to me, especially considering like, so he's the brother of Masashi Kishimoto, the dude that made Naruto.
Right.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
the core season of Naruto had like a lot of dumb like teenage boy fan servicey shit in it.
It also grew out of it, didn't it?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When we got to Shippuden, there was a large sense of like maturing that went with it. And so like, while it might have had a few spots here and there, I really can't remember anything in Shippuden that was an issue with regards to fan service or anything else. And so like, again, I'm not saying fan service is like an issue in and of itself, because I mean, like, some people can be into it, and viewers on all sides of the spectrum,
its properties,
right? But so like, the fact of the matter is like, we clearly have authors that are working with shonen series that are getting to the point where it's like, well, this really isn't necessary to my work anymore, and I kind of don't want it to be in this at this point. So it's just and so I just, it's a weird sense of it kind of felt like a Benjamin buttoning of maturity for this.
Oh, okay, where there's this dichotomy where one of them is actually progressing as a writer and the other is regressing.
Yeah, it was just annoying to me in that sense.
So Zach, didn't you actually read a little bit of Fire Force in the manga? Like, I don't know how far you read, but
I didn't read any further than I got the anime.
Oh,
so I only read a few chapters of the manga.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, like, if you did, like, did you notice any of this stuff? But I mean,
it was with the same frequency.
Oh,
like the Lucky Electra stuff still happened in the manga. It was about the same way.
Gross.
Well, I think I remember people talking about that on Twitter too. Was like, whenever people were like, "That's weird that it's in the anime," and people were like, "It's in the manga."
And the manga too. Yeah.
That's not really a justification, but whatever.
Yeah, because we've seen some shows just be like, "That's okay. We're not going to do that," and it was for the better.
Anyway, I'm not gonna rant about this anymore. Like, it's not really gonna be very productive. It's just annoying to me.
Yeah, I think.
And I hate that it took a show that could have been genuinely really interesting to me and just made it so completely just not my shit anymore.
Yeah, you kind of got burned on that one.
I did not get burned watching Given, though.
Well, that's a
I
given.
don't know
There's
if
another
either of you all
one.
watched it.
I watched the first 3 episodes and I loved it, but once again, I just didn't get around to finishing.
I watched 0% of Given.
I kind of figured.
It's real good.
Wow.
It's real good, Matt.
I mean, I'm sure I would like it. I just didn't watch it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So-
Like, I guess I don't really have a lot to say about Given, except that it's probably one of my favorite romance shows that I've watched in recent memory. Really interesting stuff, dealing with a lot of personal trauma and heartbreak and everything else, but also having a kind of like music and band dynamic slammed into it, made for a really interesting pace for the show and a cool like central core. It has a lot of really good emotional payoff. It's a lot of fun to watch the chemistry between the main crew. It's just real good. I would say,
Well, that's
again, it's kind of one of those. All right, so I'm done now, and I'm going to hand the mic over to you. So,
I wanted to get it in there.
You did it. Congratulations. I like Given a lot. It was one of my faves from this season. I'd definitely give it a chance if you're even remotely interested.
Give it a chance.
Fuck off. If you're even remotely interested in romance or like LGBTQ kind of stuff, anime or anything like that,
Or just really good music anime, too.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Apparently, I need to watch Given. Is what I've learned.
Yes.
I'm not. Yes.
I was so tempted.
There's
but
no joke there.
Move on.
I was
was no-
gonna fucking.
There was no
murder
joke
you,
there.
Kyle.
There was no joke.
I could have made a joke and I refrained. Matt, what's up? How you doing? What else you got for us?
Okay. You guys sound a little mad. So.
Why you have to be mad?
All right. So, Astra Lost in Space.
I wanted to catch up with that. And finish
This
it.
is one of my largest disappointments on myself that you guys both pointed that out to me as being like fan-fucking-tastic, and I still have not seen it.
So this show, like, I can't even recall the last time I saw a show like this. So, by the way, to give a point of reference, this show, to start off with, has the weirdest episode layout that I've ever seen. It's only 12 episodes, but the first episode and the last episode are double length. And not only that, like, the show alternates its openings and endings, so, like, it's kind of like it's kind of like ReZero. Like, it keeps cutting out, like, it keeps having the episode, like, play, like, over the credits sometimes.
Oh, okay.
In one direction or another.
Yes.
So it's like, there's not a lot of, like, honestly, I think they played the opening like 4 times and the ending like maybe 5. Like, it was like,
Damn.
it was honestly like super staggered. I mean, they were really trying to cram like a whole lot into this show, which you think would be a really bad thing. But honestly, like,
Well, no, I guess it just depends on the show, because we've seen some in which they do something similar to that. Well, I mean, you even mentioned ReZero, and it's like, oh, okay, we actually really like a lot of the stuff that they included.
yeah, so I think maybe they really thought a lot about, like, the planning the show out, which it was obviously intentional. Like, you wouldn't think a show like this would have such a weird, like, production quirk to it. Because, like, Fate did this. Like, Fate Unlimited Blade Works did something similar, where they had, like, a double length, and then a double length, and then they had the whole show, and then they had another double length at the end. But, like, it's, like, that's a big money show. Like, what is this show in the grand scheme of things? Like,
who's the
it was
company
Lurch.
behind this?
It was Lurch, Studio Lurch.
Damn.
Like,
Oh,
like,
wow.
like
people.
some like random, you know, I don't want to say random. They've done a lot of good stuff, but
And
Yeah.
they were also doing Given this season too.
yeah. So that's
They had a lot of irons in the fire.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. It's just really that's the thing that makes this show weird. But honestly, like, this is probably, like, if I was to think of it, like, and I don't watch a lot of sci-fi anime, but this is strictly sci-fi. Like, I mean, I don't actually know what other genre tags I would put on this. Because this is just, I mean, you might be able to argue, like, oh, like, space adventures.
But it's like a hard sci-fi kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Like, it is absolutely, like, all the way through. There's a lot of, the show goes into a lot of stuff about, like, what is it like, you know, just like interacting with different environments. Like we almost get like a Kino's like journey sort of feel at first, but it kind of digresses into more of that sci-fi feel of like, what is humanity? You know, what's the point of humanity? Like it gets into like some
I mean,
serious like ground topics. You know, like that's sci-fi.
That's one of the benefits of sci-fi. Yeah, exactly. Is trying to get those big topics and figuring them out just in a sci-fi universe.
Yeah, and it's definitely a show that you would look at and you would never like, just from the art, you would never think that or even the first episode, you might not even think that like it's gonna go that route if you weren't familiar with it. Like besides like, oh, it's in space, it's a sci-fi, but you know, being in space doesn't make it a sci-fi, but whatever. It's just like there's a lot of aspect, like the more you watch this show, the more I think you start realizing how deep in...
How hard it goes.
Yeah, how hard it went way harder than I was expecting it to into that aspect. Like
that's exciting to me.
I was thinking, okay, like we're going to go through space, there's going to be shenanigans, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, romance, slice of life aspects, all this, you know, all this stuff. We're going to learn like some kind of plot, you know. But honestly, like the plot took like a forefront, like by the end of the show, and by the end of the show, I mean like by like the 4th episode. So, it really delves into the deep topics, and honestly, guys, this show gets pretty dark. Like, I'm not gonna say like berserk levels of dark or anything, but it's like, I mean, we're talking about...
It's
like,
pretty bleak.
Yeah, it's pretty, like... Yeah. Like, sometimes you're like... God, like... What? Am I a person? Like... like, I mean, those are the kind of questions you ask yourself. But... It just makes you ask a lot of, like, really interesting questions about, like... You know, what is humanity's purpose? Or, like, what is it, like... What does living really mean to us? Like
yeah, this sounds right up my alley.
It's
God damn.
Very. It's like you would, as I said, you would never think for the first episode the show was going to go this hard, but it does.
No, definitely not.
It does,
because I mean, like, you know, the first episode does give an indication that like there is a sense of stakes and everything else to it, but like I would not have imagined that we were going to get into some like wicked philosophical shit.
Yeah, like I mean, I didn't either, but I was all here for it when it started. But I think the beautiful thing about it though is it's also like it likes to play around with its like humor in a very interesting way too. It definitely knows when to offset it, like at the perfect moments. Like I don't know. Apparently, the original manga this is based off of is like super good, and like so the source material itself was apparently just super well written.
I keep seeing it on Shonen Jump and thinking that I need to actually get around to reading it.
I mean, honestly, I might delve into it. Like it's pretty interesting, but the comedy itself is just so well balanced with how serious and introspective this show gets at times, and it's really good at just balancing it, and and of course, like, you know, it wouldn't be a sci-fi show if you didn't have all your core sci-fi elements, you know, like you got, I mean, you name a sci-fi aspect, this show's got it. Like
lightsabers.
Not quite. Close.
I guess technically those are like science fantasy though.
There's a magical gun.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Spacewalks, probably.
Yeah.
Spacewalks without helmet.
Yeah, actually.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I want to watch this.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. I mean, this show's got it all. Like, and it honestly, just amazing. Like I don't want to spoil it, but it's just so good. Like honestly, and there's this. This is another show that like made me laugh so hard at episode 11. It's weird. Two shows that I liked both had a interesting episode 11. But the scene was so dark, and they just ended it on like the best comedic note. It was just hilarious. It was one of those things that I don't know.
Like it shouldn't have worked, but it did.
Shouldn't have worked, but it did. And
for some reason, just the catharsis of that humor just managed to get all the relief out of you.
Yeah, it was just like it was. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's the best way to put it. Honestly, like it was just it got so dark and so heavy, and then like it comes out of nowhere. And honestly, I was like, this fits this show perfectly. Like there's no other way. But yeah, honestly, the only I guess if you want to call this a complaint I had about it was that, I mean, like the characters didn't get like a whole lot of development. I mean, they did, but it's not really the point of the show. So it
was more of just them as a group, like journeying.
Yeah, kind of like learning about themselves and learning about you know what
the point of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like basically the point of being there and all that. So it wasn't really about like character development. I'm changing as a person. Although I guess there is always a little bit of that, especially.
It was more focused.
It was very specifically plot driven.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It was very more focused on its narrative.
Yeah.
Which is not bad. Yeah. Okay, I am down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, to me, the fact of the matter is, you have been gushing over this show, and that really doesn't happen much. So that's enough of an endorsement for me.
I know. I found two shows that I loved this season, and I was like,
yeah, I'm fucking astonished.
That was awesome. Like, I never do that. Like,
so
I'm always like really like lukewarm on a lot of shows, and then I was like, 2 in a row. I was legitimately surprised too. So
cool.
Yeah. Watch Astra Lost in Space. Fucking
that
good.
about covers it for me. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to get to?
I mean, I finished out Fruits Basket.
Yeah, I'm ashamed as
basket?
the person that was like such a huge. Well, probably 12. 13.
There's 25 fruits in this basket.
Okay, episode.
Because it's a 2.
I was thinking Zodiac plus Cat. Yeah, I feel ashamed as somebody who watched the original and it was like one of my absolute jams. I feel so ashamed that I haven't finished it yet. But
it's really great, and I mean, there's not much more because we talked about Fruits Basket a bit before, but I guess ultimately, if you liked what you saw of it before, you're going to continue to like what you see, but
it seemed like it was just a really good like modernization of what was already there.
Yeah, but bottom line, it's a really delightful look at not just a sweet altruistic like shoujo girl kind of thing going on, but it's a really fascinating show about learning to love and live with people who have experienced trauma of different kinds, and just learning to listen to them and to be there for them and to work with them through their struggles and troubles. And I really didn't expect it to be that going into the show, but it was really refreshing to see it continue in that direction.
Yeah, that was one of the big reasons why I love the original so much, is that you expect it to be like super sugary sweet, and then you're like, oh fuck. There's some heavy stuff here, but they managed to go through it like so beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be fair, there's a lot of it that is very sugary sweet, but it is that is peppered in throughout, the rest of the actual, like, real-ass discussions and issues that it talks about. So
it's like making milk chocolate. You got your bittersweet, and you got your salt, and you got some other ingredients that just make it real good, real yummy.
Nice.
Yep. It's a whole fucking edible arrangement up in here.
I mean,
all the fruits are in this basket. All of them.
All of them.
So
it is a cornucopia, man.
Why can't I hold all these limes?
It's been a while. Oh shit.
So anything else?
That's all that I finished this season.
I mean, that's all.
Yeah, there were some that I felt shitty about because there's multiples as I've said on this podcast that I felt shitty about, but like Copcraft was one of those that I was like loved it, just didn't finish it. Along with Fruits Basket, along with Demon Slayer, along with a million others.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is just a busy time of the year.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know, finding stuff to like stick to and have a consistent schedule for can just be really daunting sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also just a lot of good stuff, so there's no way unless you like, unless you like, I don't know, like didn't sleep. You didn't sleep for like half the season, then like
no sleep the month.
Yeah, you gotta prioritize and like schedule your shit for it.
If you start like if you went on 4 hours of sleep every night, you might get through a couple more shows or something. If you know.
Yeah.
Please don't do that.
Really though, I don't know what else I would have gone through this season. I was pretty content with what I ended up watching.
Honestly, I was pretty satisfied with what I got. So I was like, wow, like there's so many other things I could have watched. I felt bad for missing out on Given, and then I finished both of my shows and Maidens, and I was like, you know what, I'm all right for this season. I'll just, I'll take what I got. Take what I got and run. So,
well, if that's it, I guess we'll catch everybody next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. All right.
Later.
Bye. Hey, thanks for listening. As always, you can find all our podcasts, articles, videos, etc. at thebackloggers.com. Our intro and outro song is The Bear by Shell in the Pit, who you can find on Spotify and Bandcamp. And we'd love to hear from y'all in the comments on our site, on the podcast platform of your choice, or by reading some poetry from when you were a teenager. It was a weird time for us too, trust us. And as always, we're on Twitter at _backloggers, so pull up a log and stop in for a bit.